Hi, I'm Jeff from Cobra Jet Steering, and I want to take a little time to do a video to help you understand how to install and how the Ultimate system works. The Ultimate system I've been making for about 2 years now, and it's adjustable, selectable. It's for Yamaha jet boats, and since Yamaha just changed their nozzles, I thought I should make an updated video so you can understand how to put them on and what they fit and what they don't. They came out with an articulated keel with a rudder, etc., and they have a tie rod now on this nozzle that goes down to it on the 24-foot boats. So what they decided to do, I assume, is they made these nozzles all the same now. So any 2015s are going to have this nozzle. The nozzle is really, it's identical to the earlier nozzles, which they used from the beginning, except for the castings. So everything else is the same. You also note that there's a plastic reverse gate. Well, they've been doing that for a couple of years now, so we've already made adjustments for that, and that's irrelevant. The systems that we're selling now are compatible with the old nozzles, the old reverse gates, the newer nozzles, the new reverse gates. It's all going to be the same. The big difference is the 2015s having this part now have cutouts on the side fork stabilizer to allow you to slide it on, whereas earlier ones just went up. Well, that won't work because of these castings, so we had to put these notches in, and now it goes right on. If you have an earlier one and you wanted to put it on the new nozzles, all you really have to do is go down about 1 inch and in a 1/4 inch and just take a file and file out a notch like these notches, and it would be compatible. So if you have a newer boat or even an older boat, from now on everything we're selling will fit them. So no big deal there. If you buy a used set from someone, just keep in mind if it's a 2015 nozzle you're putting it on, you got to put these notches in it. My instructions, I do like 7-page instruction and plus a separate one for the side fork stabilizer for a reason, but a lot of times I find people aren't reading them, so the videos make it easier. I still suggest you read the instructions, but I'm going to try and cover everything just to help out. One important thing is I separate the bolts for the side fork stabilizers and the spacers and the spacers for the fins. And the reason is they both look the same, except the one on the side fork stabilizer is a little bit deeper. And that gives it play. These nozzles have play, they have to turn, and you don't want to put the wrong one in there and take the play out. It's going to make it a lot harder for it to turn. So pay attention and you won't have any problems. If you get them mixed up, you can lay them side by side and you can actually see which one's taller, which one's shorter. Short ones go on the fins. So what we're going to do is you need a 12mm wrench for the factory bolts. So here's the 12mm. I'm going to start with the bottom bolt. Customers are telling me it's easier to do it this way. You can do it with the fins first. It's really not that big a deal, but I've tried it both ways and I agree with the customers that this is an easier way to do it. You notice when you take the bolt out that there is a spacer that goes in there. Do not lose that spacer. We need that. When you open up your kit for the bolts and spacers for the side fork stabilizer, you're going to find a hex bolt with a 13mm head. You're going to have a very, very thick washer. That goes on the bottom. You have this is actually a bearing, and you have the thicker bushing or bearing that goes in there. Now you see this sits on there, and you take your side fork stabilizer, it says this side up, you slide it on, make sure you, almost did it, make sure you put that original spacer back, and you must put thread locking compound on this bolt. Any kind will do, even removable type, but you just don't want the bolt being able to come loose. Okay, it's 13 like I said. You take a 13, tighten it up. Don't over tighten them. I've had people actually strip them because they weren't paying attention and they thought, well, there's play here, it must not be tight. It's supposed to be there, it has to be there. This washer, this is one thing you can always tell. If you can spin that washer, and I'm actually spinning it, you're perfect. That protects the aluminum from this washer down here. So that's going to float on there, that's fine. Now, you want to go over to your right hand side, 12 millimeter. Take it off. You're going to have those same spacers inside of the reverse. Either type of reverse is still going to have these spacers. Make sure you leave them in there. Don't remove them. Right hand side is the one with the spring. So you have a very long bolt. I make these long enough so that they utilize the majority of the threads in there and reinforce the bosses on the nozzle. The factory only uses a couple of threads. I just figure it's there. Might as well use it. You're going to need this spacer for the spring to sit on. The spring is only going to go on one way. If you put it on backwards, you'll end up taking it back off. The fingers go towards the nozzle. Have it up. It's not going to do anything right now. When you put it on, have it up. No tension on it or anything. At the end, you're going to have a flat washer. You're going to have your right hand fin. You're going to have the thinner spacers, bushings, whatever you want to call them. And you got another flat washer here. That's all going to go into the reverse. Be sure that little piece is in there. Line it up with the threads, which is fun, especially from my perspective here. Okay, once you get it going, all that thread's going in that nozzle, which makes it much stronger. You should put some thread locking compound on those big bolts just to be safe. Snug it up, don't over tighten it. Okay. Make sure that moves, make sure that's got a little play, you're fine. Leave the spring unhooked right now. Go around the other side. We need the 12 again. You take the bolt out of the side. Gonna have one of those spacers inside there, leave it. This is a button cap, it's an Allen. It's a 5 millimeter metric Allen cap. But if you don't have a 5 millimeter, okay, you can use a 3/16 standard. It's close enough that it'll work. I'll take this, I get that small. These holes are cut with a laser, they have to go in straight. Don't put the bushings in straight, they're not going to go in. Don't file them, put them in, they'll go. Here you got that. Make sure that little spacer's in that reverse gate. If you're doing an aluminum one, it's the same. They have them too. I want to get this because of the angle I'm approaching it, it's a little tricky to find here. There we go. Okay. Again, this thing's taking up all those threads and using them to make it stronger. You don't want to over tighten it, you just want to make sure it's snug. You really should put the thread locking on it. There we go, that's it. That's floating. That's floating. Now I'm going to get to the really important part here. This is the actuator. You notice the fins have holes in them. Those are adjustments. You can set your actuator on these adjustments. When it comes down on here, it will like hold one fin up or both fins up, however you want to do it. I'll get into that a little bit more, but for the beginning, we're going to set them on the top holes. These are nylock nuts. We're going to put a nylock nut on. Put another one. And I built playing this on purpose. You can actually tweak this and it helps you later on, but for right now, you just want to get these screws in. Okay. Now if you're looking at this right now, you see this is higher than that one. That's because we don't have anything set yet, and this is touching, and that's okay. Don't worry about that, because when we're, like I say, there's play on these. Once we get this right, get these little nuts on. Okay, let's go. There we go. Now, what I want to do, the nuts are 10 millimeter, and this is the 4 millimeter Allen. What I want to do is, you see how I'm twisting that up. I want to twist it till they touch. Oops. So I'm going to snug it up just a little on the bottom bolts. Okay, and just snug it up just a little. Now see, I can turn that. When I turn that, it puts those even. And once I turn that and put those even, I can tighten everything up. You don't have to really over tighten them, you'll feel it. Just, I'm not using a great big wrench, I'm just getting snug. And this is all tempered aluminum, it's really strong, and I'm not going to pull the screws through it or anything. Okay, now, I'm going to take this arm, goes back under the steering arm, I'm just going to flip up, and there you go, now your springs are loaded. Hit something, flips up. Okay, it's basically installed. You're all set to go. Make sure you got a little play in the nozzle, everything's good. Now let's say you have a twin engine boat and you want to have low speed steering only, or maybe just a little bit of high speed steering. You can take the outside and you can adjust on the twin engines, the outside fins, you can adjust them up. As you start adjusting them up, okay, they're going to work less at high speed. When the inside fins aren't really that big of a deal, because when you're on plane, these are out of the water. I mean, these are up, the hull comes down like this, these aren't making any contact, the hull's blocking them until it comes back down off plane, then they're back in the water again. So you can set the outside ones for any depth that you want, and that will affect how much high speed steering you get. As far as single engine boats, you have to adjust them evenly, but you can set these so that they're like all the way up here. Well, unless the boat comes off plane, they're not really going to be doing much. So that's the nice part about this system. You can set it up the way you want it. If you think that you need to change it, it's there, change it. You know, you don't have to buy a different system. That's pretty much the whole deal right there. There's not much to it. It's not a big complicated deal. You just have to be careful that you use thread locking compound on the bolts. You put the bushings back where they belong. You don't cross the thin bushings with the thick bushings. If you did, the minute you go to check this washer, you're going to see it's bound up. If it's bound up, you did it wrong. That's pretty much it.